Zoho Books team. Uh, Today I'll walk you through how to set up your migration tool in Zoho Books and how to transfer your data from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. So the first thing is a brief on Zoho Books. Let me quickly share my screen and walk you through how Zoho Books looks like and how you can migrate your data from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. So Zoho Books is an end-to-end accounting application with which you'll be able to manage your receivables, payables, your stock tracking if required. You'll also be able to do your GST filing directly from Zoho Books. We are also e-invoicing compliant, so you'll also be able to manage your e-invoicing directly from Zoho Books. Apart from this, if you're in goods trading and if you have to transfer goods from one place to another, you'll also be able to generate e-bills directly from Zoho Books. Apart from this, we have multiple reports which will help you figure out how your business is performing at any point of time. There's a brief on how Zoho Books works like and how you can be used for your organization. So generally, when you're moving from one application to another, you'll have to bring in the previous fiscal year closing balances along with the master data. The master data here refers to your customers, your vendors, your items, chart of accounts, and any open payables or receivables that are yet to be paid to the customers and vendors. So all these transactions will have to be imported into the new applications manually. However, we have ease this process and we have introduced a QBO migration tool which will help you fetch in the transactions which are available in QuickBooks and pull it into Zoho Books. So without any further ado, let me briefly introduce on how the tool works, how it can be connected in Zoho Books, and how you can pull data from QuickBooks. So about the migration tool, so this connects directly to QuickBooks and will pull in the from the respective modules in QuickBooks to the respective modules in Zoho Books. You'll be able to specify the date from which the transactions has to be pulled in, with which from which the data from QuickBooks will be pulled into Zoho Books. While you're bringing in the transactions, the attachments can also be imported via this tool and can be associated to the respective transactions. You will be able to fetch in up to 25,000 transactions per module. To elaborate more on this, you'll be able to say bring in 25,000 invoices, 25,000 bills, and so on. You'll also be able to bring in transactions after the introductions of GST via this tool. So let me show you how to connect this tool in Zoho Books. So once you have enabled the tool, you'll be able to see the QBO migration tab just below the dashboard. Just go to the QBO migration tool, click on connect to QuickBooks. You'll be redirected to the sign-in page where you'll be required to sign in to the QuickBooks account, add in your registered email address and password. Once the details are provided, you can sign into QuickBooks. Once you've signed in, you'll be requested to select the company which needs to be migrated to Zoho Books. You can select the company and click Next. When done, we'll be establishing a connection in QuickBooks and Zoho Books. Once the connection is established, the system will automatically redirect you to Zoho Books QuickBook migration page. Now, we've connected the QuickBooks organization to Zoho Books. We can then proceed with the profile configuration. To configure the profile, the configure profile section consists of GST configurations, item configurations, SKU, and timesheet configurations. Let's go through this one by one. The first thing is to configure your GST details. Click on configure and add the GSTN number of your organization. You can also add the other details required. And if you're also in CES or overseas trading enabled organization, those can be enabled over here. Apart from this, you can also see the tax rates which are available in Zoho Books in the tax rate section. You can also add any new tax rates if required over here. Once tax rates are configured, we can go back to the QuickBooks migration page and configure the other settings. If you're a goods trade organization, You'll also be required to add in your inventory tracking details along with the HSN SAC code details, which can be configured over here in the item preferences section. Once the item preferences are configured, we can go back to the QBO migration page and configure other settings as required. If you have SKU or timesheet preferences needed, which needs to be enabled, those can be enabled in this section. Now that we have configured the preferences, we can start with the data import using the QBO migration tool. Before we start with the QBO migration fetch, few things that needs to be clarified here are first things is a data import of masters. The masters include your customers, your vendors, your chart of accounts, and you'll also be able to import your items from QuickBooks. Once the master data is imported, you can then fetch in your transactions, which include your invoices, your bills, your payments, and any attachments if needed. So let's go and check how the masters and transactions can be fetched into Zoho Books. Once you've clicked on Fetch Masters, you'll be redirected to the page where you have to read the limitations and all, which are available in our help document. Once you've read through the limitations, these masters and transactions can be fetched in. Check the option that you've read the limitations on fetching the masters, click Fetch, and the masters will be imported into Zoho Books. Once the masters are imported, you can then go to Fetch Transaction. While you're fetching the transaction, you can also mention the transaction fetching date. As I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to give a date after the GST establishment. So you can select the date over here, and the transactions after the selected date will be fetched into Zoho Books. Click Fetch, and the transactions also will be fetched into Zoho Books. Now, we have fetched all the transactions into Zoho Books. While you're fetching these transactions, there might be options where the transactions might have certain errors which needs to be corrected. Let me show you how these transaction errors can be corrected in Zoho Books. Let's take an example of the master data that we have imported. As you can see over here, the master data has certain errors. So under the chart of accounts, as you can see, we have 6 failed transactions. So how these transactions can be corrected? Let's have a quick look at that. So first and foremost thing is download the failed records. So using this while you're uploading, so while the transactions are being pulled in, whatever error records which are skipped will automatically get downloaded as a zip file, which can later be corrected and re-imported into Books. Let me show you how to correct these transactions which are available in our zip file. So let's go to the downloaded zip file, this over here. So as you can see in the zip file, there are different accounts. There are different files which are shown, say the accounts, the contacts, items, and the vendors. So these are all master files that was imported from QuickBooks. So we mentioned that there were errors in the account file. So let's open up the account. So these are the errors that are in each of the account rows. So these are the accounts, these are the errors which have which we are facing while during the chart of accounts import. As you can see, the first one is sorry, you cannot add any accounts of type account receivable and account payable. This is so in Zoho Books, we have a default account receivable and payable account. Hence, you will not be required to create multiple account receivable and payable accounts. So these accounts can be removed and further import can be proceeded. Also, we have this option called currency is not, we also have an error, currency is not supported for this account type. In Zoho Books, while you're creating a chart of accounts, it is not needed to it is not needed to associate a currency account. So the currency can also be removed and you can mention the currency as INR for these accounts. Apart from this, if the if an account already exists in Zoho Books, the name cannot be reused. Hence, you can make the corrections in the account name and then re-import the file. Also, there are certain accounts which do not have a parent account. In certain cases, such as bank, You'll not be able to have parent and sub accounts in Zoho Books. Hence, those parent account can be removed and this account will be re-imported into the tool. We can make the necessary changes. Once the changes are made, you can quickly import this file into the Zoho Books organization. So we'll make the necessary changes. Once then, we can save this transaction. So now we have saved the file. Let's try importing the file into Zoho Books. Let's go to Zoho Books organization. Over here, as you can see, there's an option called upload files. Upload files, select choose file, and select the file that we have already corrected. So I've recorrected the file. Now let's upload the file. As you can see, once the file is uploaded, the accounts which were not imported previously are ready to be imported. We can click import and continue. So on, you can follow the same process for the other error records. So similarly, we also have error files for our transactions, sales and purchase transactions, and others, which include the journals. So you can follow the procedure, download the zip file, make the necessary corrections, and re-upload it. Once the re-upload is done, you can proceed with the next module. We would suggest you to go module-wise during the import. First, the master's import. Only when the master's import is completed, you can go for the transaction import, which is the purchase transactions, sales transactions, and the journal transactions. Once the transactions are imported, you can also fetch in your attachments. If the attachment, so when you're fetching in the attachments automatically get associated to the transactions. You will not be required to manually associate the transactions. So manually associate the documents. However, if there are failed documents where there are no attachment, where there are no connections between the transactions and attachments, those will be available in our documents section, which can be later associated to the transactions as needed. So these are attachments which were not associated by default, which can be associated to the transaction at a later time if needed. So now we have completed our master import. We have completed our sales and purchase import as well as our journal imports. Once all these imports are completed, we can now go ahead and verify our opening balances and closing balances. So with respect to opening and closing balances, there are a few things that needs to be clarified. So how the opening balance is calculated, we can have a look at it before we proceed with the next step. So when you click on verify opening balances, the first thing is the migration date. So the migration date is nothing but the date prior to which you have fetched in the transactions. So say if you fetched in the transactions as of 2nd July 2017, migration date would be 1st 2017. Or in your case, if you're planning to migrate from 1st of April 2022, your migration date would be 31st of March 2022. The date prior to the transaction fetch date will be your migration date in Zoho Books. And the values that are shown over here, that is account receivable, payable, and other values that are populated in this opening balance sections are fetched in automatically from QuickBooks. The system will automatically calculate the closing balances prior to the transaction fetch date using the QuickBooks trial balance report, and the value will be automatically pulled into the respective accounts available in the opening balance section. Once the opening balance is verified, we can go ahead with the closing balance import. So once the opening balances are verified, you can click continue. If there are any adjustments, you can also ensure to make the corrections, and the corrections once added can be it can import the opening balances if required, or you can manually make the corrections and confirm the opening balance. Since the opening balance is now saved, we can go ahead with our closing balance section. Closing balance is nothing but you're matching the balances which are available in Zoho Books to that is available in QuickBooks as of the current date or the date in which you've fetched in the transactions. So for example, if you fetched in the transactions as of 15th of March, so all the the closing balance as of 15th of March will be shown in the closing balance in QuickBooks section. Closing balance available in Zoho Books after the migration of all the transaction will be available in the closing balance in Zoho Books section. As you can see, there will be a different section which will show the net between the balance available in Zoho Books and the balance available in QuickBooks. You can click on this and you'll be able to see the transaction summary and can be adjusted over here using the adjust transaction section. You can either adjust it as a journal entry, or you can add it as a transaction, or adjust it as an opening balance. You can make the necessary adjustments in each section, and once you verify the closing balances, you can complete the migration and proceed with your day-to-day transactions in Zoho Books. So these are the steps that have to be followed while you're migrating your organization from QuickBooks to Zoho Books using the tool. Let me recap. The first thing is to set up a connection between QuickBooks and Zoho Books. Once the connection is established, we'll be configuring profile using the configure profile section. Once the profile is configured, we can fetch in the masters and we can fetch in the transactions. In fetch masters, the items, customers, vendors, and chart of accounts will be imported. And in fetch transaction, you'll be able to fetch in your purchase transactions, your sales transactions, and your journal transactions. Once all the transactions are imported, if there are any error records, you can download the failed error records. A zip file will be downloaded, which can be corrected and re-uploaded again. Once all the corrections are done, you can verify your opening balance and closing balance in the respective. The opening balance will be the balances prior to the transaction fetching date, and the closing balance is the balance as on the date in which you have started your QBO migration. Now we have seen the we've seen the process completely. Next, there are a few more things that can be kept in mind during the import process. If you're planning to migrate your transactions for the current fiscal year, that is from the fiscal year 1st of April 2022 to 31st of March 2023, your transaction fetch date will be 1st of April 2022. Your opening balance date will be 31st of March 2022. And your closing balance date will be as of today's date, say 15th March. If you're starting the migration today, your closing balance date will be 15th of March. This is for your current fiscal year import. In case if you plan to use Zoho Books for the next fiscal year, that is say from 1st of April 2023, in which case you will not be required to import the transactions. You can fetch in the master data from QuickBooks, and whatever opening balances that you have 31st of March 2023 can be added, and you can start with your day-to-day transactions. In the import of masters, only the items, your customers and your vendors, along with your chart of accounts will be imported, and you can start your day-to-day transactions from 1st of April 2023. In case if you have transactions more than 25,000, so as I mentioned earlier, so you'll be able to bring in up to 25,000 invoices, 25,000 bills, and so on. If in case you have a transaction volume of more than 25,000, you have a wizard using which you can manually do the import into Zoho Books. We'll be exporting the data completely out of QuickBooks after which you can manually import the data into the respective modules. If you wish to have the migration wizard for more than 25,000 transactions, please reach out to us. We'll have this enabled and help you out with migration for more than 25,000 transactions. So with that, we've come to the conclusion of how you can set up the tool in Zoho Books and how you can migrate your data from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. If there are any questions or clarifications that need to be answered, please do post your questions in the questions tab. We'll be happy to help you out.
Thank you so much, Vaishali, for this detailed walkthrough on how users can seamlessly migrate from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. We have been getting a few questions, so we would like to address the commonly asked questions. So first question is how to enable this migration tool inside Zoho Books. So if you are a business owner or QuickBooks user who have not tried Zoho Books, then you can sign up for Zoho Books using the link that I'm sharing in the chat window. And if you sign up to Zoho Books via this link, you'll this whole QBO migration module or tool as such will be enabled, and you can actually connect your Zoho Books organization with your existing QuickBooks organization and kickstart your migration. And if you are already an existing Zoho Books user who would like to move their past QuickBooks data to Zoho Books, then drop us an email to migrations@zohobooks.com. I repeat, migrations@zohobooks.com, and our team will enable this tool for your organization, and you can go ahead with the migration.
So there are a couple of questions that we have. So the first question is there a limit to the number of records which can be migrated from QuickBooks to Zoho Books? So I've mentioned before, so via this tool, so via the QuickBooks tool that we have just discussed, so you'll be able to import up to 25,000 transactions. So so if say for example you have 25,000 invoices, those can be imported into Zoho Books via this tool. If you have 25,000 bills, that can be imported. So up to 25,000 transactions per module can be imported by the tool. So that is the limit that we have set here. So and we've already discussed on how you can enable the QBO migration icon in Zoho Books. You can reach out to us via you can reach out to us via migrations@zohobooks.com, or you can also sign up using the link that is mentioned below. So if the data is more than 25K, as I mentioned earlier, you can use a wizard to manually import the transactions. You can reach out to us. We'll completely export the data for you in the format that is supported in Zoho Books. Once that files are exported in the CSV format, you can upload the same in Zoho Books. So if invoices are more than 25K, we would encourage you to use a migration wizard. So you can reach out to us. We'll first schedule an export and export all the data that you have in QuickBooks. And once the data is exported, you can use this QuickBooks wizard to import it into Zoho Books. So if you have any other questions, let us know. We'll be able to help you out. So we also have a couple of questions. So when is this feature came? Because we are exporting data from QuickBooks and doing importing in Zoho Books. You can reach out to us. There's a question by Preetham. You can reach out to us, Preetham, and we can enable this tool for your organization, and you can continue importing data into Zoho Books via this tool. You can also reach out to us, as I mentioned before. You can reach out to us migration@zohobooks.com, and we can enable the tool for your migration. During the migration process, so as I mentioned, you will have lot. If there are any errors, you can always check out the error file, see what is the exact error. However, if you're unable to debug the errors, you can always reach out to a support team. We'll be able to help you out with how to debug the error, how to make the necessary corrections, and you can re-upload the file. So as I've shown you earlier, you can download the zip file to view the error files, and based on the error, you can change the corrections. So you can make the necessary corrections and re-import it. If not, you can reach out to us in our support via our support. We can also help you debug the errors. So if you have any questions, do help reach out to our support team. We'll be able to help you out. So we also have another question with Parth Sardi, who has mentioned, who has asked whether we can bring in bank statements too from QuickBooks to Zoho Books, yet to be reconciled. So what you can do is, see, these bank statements cannot be fetched in. However, in Zoho Books, what you can do is you can use a PDF import option. So in Zoho Books, we have an option of importing bank statements in PDF format as well. So transactions or these bank statements can be imported or into Zoho Books using the PDF format, and you can then reconcile the transaction in Zoho Books itself. And we also have a direct connection with bank accounts, like direct integration with bank accounts such as ICICI, HSBC, ICBS Bank. And apart from this, to fetch in the statements, we are also connected to up to 3,500 and plus banks using a service provider. You can use any of these to fetch in the statements as well. So these statements will have to be fetched in manually into Zoho Books. So if you want to transfer all the transactions such as journals as well, this tool will be able to help you out. So we have a separate section called others, which contains all the journals which are available in QuickBooks. So even the journals will be imported into Zoho Books. See, Zoho Books is an end-to-end accounting tool. So we have a question whether Zoho Books can be used instead of Tally, and what are the advantages. And most of the CAs are comfortable with Tally. So Umesh, so Zoho Books is an end-to-end accounting tool which is available in cloud. You'll be able to handle your accounting from anywhere at any point of time. So in Zoho Books, you'll have real-time data. You'll be able to have real-time analysis of how your business is performing. You'll be able to see what is a good stock on hand at any point of time. Apart from this, it's a very easy UI. You'll be able to use it on your own. You'll be able to key in your transactions, day-to-day transactions on a daily basis. And if required, you can also export the reports that are available in Zoho Books in Excel or CSV format, and have it shared with your CAs for final audit purpose if required. And as I mentioned, we are also directly connected to GST filing, a GST module for doing your GST filing. We are connected to the IRP portal to do your e-invoicing, and we are also connected with e-waybill portal to do your e-waybill generation. So all these are some of the advantages that you will have with Zoho Books. Apart from this, as I mentioned, there are a lot of customizations possible, a lot of automations possible. So you can explore further. You can further explore Zoho Books. We have a 14-day free trial as well. So you can sign up and check out our trial and see how Zoho Books can be useful for you. We have another question where it says you're facing an error called mandatory columns are missing. It would be helpful if you could reach out to us via support, so we will be able to help you out and see what exactly the error is. So some of the mandatory columns for bills is such as the tax, the vendor's name, vendor bill number, vendor due date, and the bill date, and so on. So there are a lot of mandatory columns. So you can just let us know what is the file that you're uploading, and we can check and see if there are any issues in the file. So we have another question called, what about inactive chart of accounts and transactions? Will they import or not? So your inactive chart of accounts, right? So they will be imported. They'll have a specific tag called deleted. So you can filter out these deleted, or you can filter out these accounts which have the deleted tag and mark it as inactive at a later time. Because in certain cases, what happens is, even though the accounts are inactive, they were made inactive at certain point, prior to that they might have transactions associated to them. So definitely we will be bringing these inactive accounts, but they'll have a unique tag called deleted on them. So you'll be able to filter out these deleted, you'll be able to filter out the accounts have the tag deleted and mark it as inactive later on when the migration is complete. So first bring in all the transaction including the inactive accounts, all the transactions which have this inactive accounts associated to them. Once the entire migration is completed, you can again mark them as inactive if required. So that is also possible. Um, so how to adjust ARAP balances in Zoho Box? You have to pass journal. So do reach out to us. We can have this feature enabled for your organization. We do allow that option of uh, creating journals for account receivable and payable. Do reach out to our support team. We'll have this feature enabled for your organization, so you can pass journals as required. So we also have another question called question from Parthasarthi. So we have he's asking whether you have both USD and INR invoices, and if the migration tool can handle that. Yes, with the migration tool, you will be able to fetch in both USD as well as INR transactions, provided you professional and above plan. So in Zoho Books, we support multi-currency in professional and above plans. You can also purchase the professional plan, create customers with the correct currency associated to them. Say if it's USD or AED, the currency can be chosen in the customer contact and be able to create invoices for them. So we also have another question. So yeah, so we would be able to import only sales and purchase transactions. So yeah, you can import sales and purchase transactions. Apart from that, if you also have journals created in Quick, that will also be that will also be fetched into Zoho Books via this tool. We also have another question. Does Zoho Books support cost centers? Yes, we have this feature called reporting tags in Zoho Books. So you can create a reporting tag for different cost centers associated while you're creating transactions. So these cost centers can be created prior to the migration, and while you're doing the migration, you can associate these cost centers in the respective transaction. Even if it is available in QuickBooks, that will be fetched in over here along with the reporting tags as well. You can use the reporting tag feature. So we have another question from Jayendran, who is asking whether we have to enter the opening balances for each fiscal year manually, or it's just migrated after the first import. So for as far as opening balance is concerned, right? So for example, say you're planning to migrate your data from 1st of April 2022. Okay, that is the current fiscal year that is happening. So your transaction fetch date will be 1st of April 2022. So all your balances, uh, your closing balance date will be 31st of March 2022, right? So what the system will do is it will automatically fetch in the balances for 31st of March 2022 only. So the opening balances will be fetched in as of 31st of March and will be automatically populated in the opening balance section. So in case if you have multiple fiscal years importing in, the same process happens. You'll put the fetching date as say 1st of April 2023, or say of April 2021. So whatever balances that you have as of the previous year, so 1st of April 2021 as in 31st of March 2021, so that opening balance will be fetched in. So you'll just have to enter the opening balance only once. It's not for every fiscal year. You'll have to manually do it each time. You have to enter the opening balance only once, and then subsequent year transactions will be fetched in. That's how it works. So someone has asked when this tool is established. So this is actually live now. So you can have this. You can use that sign up link that Samina then has added already, and you'll be able to sign up for Zoho Books. You'll be able to sign up for Zoho Books along with the QuickBooks tool added in the organization by default. So there's another question whether Zoho Books has a part in payroll management. So we have a separate tool called Zoho Payroll, which can be used to manage your payroll, that is pay runs. Apart from this, if you have to just create a simple expense or a bill for the salary that you've paid to the employee, that can also be added as an expense in Zoho Books. We have a question on whether we can pass journals for AR and AP. So as I mentioned, it's an early access feature, so you can have this enabled for your organization. Do reach out to us. Have this option enabled so that you'll be able to pass AR and AP journals. So we have a few more questions. So there was a question on whether you'll be able to stop the migration and restart the same. So see, once the fetch once you have clicked on fetch, the transactions fetched will be happening in the back end. You can go about it, your day-to-day business or day-to-day transaction can be pulled in, but your fetch will be automatically happening in the back end. So this is an automated process, hence cannot be stopped once you start it. So that's why we are suggesting you to go for wise in module wise. So first the masters and then the transaction import. So once you've initiated it, this cannot be stopped or restarted again. I'll just answer that. So do we have a video to check on how to export the data from attachments with attachments from QuickBooks, like a valid format to import into Zoho Books? So if you're using the tool, so I think this question was asked by Vipul. So if you're using our QuickBooks tool that we've just discussed, you'll also see an option to import the attachments from QuickBooks into Zoho Books. So you can fetch the attachments via the tool itself. So what the tool will do is, if the attachment was associated to a transaction, automatically put the attachment alongside the transaction that was imported. If in case the transaction is not available, or if there was an error in transaction during the attachment import, so in those cases the attachment will be pulled into Zoho Books definitely, but it will not be associated to the transaction. It will be available in the document section of Zoho Books, which can later be associated to the necessary transaction. So you don't have to do the attachment export and import separately. You can do it along with the same tool itself. So you can just click on the fetch attachment section to fetch in the attachments in the respective transaction. I would suggest you to have this the last, like at the attachment should be the last step in your migration. Before that, you have to import all your transactions first. So once the transactions are completely imported, that is your sales and purchase transactions are completely imported, after this you can import your attachments, so that the attachments will be correctly associated to the respective transactions.
Okay, so there is another question. We have a client who was using QB earlier and has already been using Zoho for almost 2 years. Initially, we updated the opening balances and used QB to refer to old transactions. Now that this data will no longer be available, is it possible to enable and use the wizard to import legacy data? I believe what you mean is at some point you have started using Zoho Books and you have entered the opening balance on that date, and your old data was still in QuickBooks. Now, if you want to bring the old data into Zoho Books, which is before the opening balance date, then we would not advise it, and also you would have a lot of work to do. Like, you would have to first of all update the opening balance date. So if you're bringing the old data, you would have to update the opening balance as the date from which you are going to bring the data, and then you would have to import the old data as well. So it would be better, you just take a backup of your data from QuickBooks, the old data, and continue using Zoho Books as such. But if you really want the whole data into Zoho Books, then as I said, you would have to update the opening balance and then you have to bring in the old data. For bringing in the old data, yes, we can enable wizard, but it is not going to be so useful because already you have your masters here and every other data here, and it is just some transactions which you are going to bring here. So you can simply manually import the data. Or if you have the entire backup of the data with you and you want to freshly do the migration, then you can create a new organization where you can enable the wizard for you and you can import the data.
So we have one more question. They you have been using QuickBooks for just your sales transaction, that is your receivables, say adding your estimates and so on, and purchase orders. So you've mentioned whether the Zoho Books alone is sufficient for your usage here. Yes, so you'll be able to manage, as I mentioned, it's an end-to-end accounting platform. You'll be able to manage both your sales part and purchase part. So with this tool, we'll also be able to pull in your sales transactions and purchase transactions into Zoho Books. So Zoho Books are sufficient for you.
So there is one question: what should you share with Zoho to enable the tool? So you can drop us an email with your organization ID. So we would need your organization ID to enable the tool. But as we have been saying, if you have not yet signed up, you can simply go and sign up from the link which we have shared already, and the tool will be already enabled in that organization. We check the entire data of QB as an offline tool. If you have exported the data, you can have it offline with you. If you are talking about this tool which we have showcased you today, it is going to fetch your transactions from QuickBooks to Zoho Books directly. So you would not have exported data with you. The data itself will be residing in Zoho Books. But if you want the data to be exported, and if you want it to be offline with you, you would have to export it from QuickBooks manually. But for the users who have transactions more than 25K, we are going to help you with export of the data as well. So that way you can have the offline data also with you. There is another question: will your team help us to do migration process from QuickBooks to Zoho Books through online? So as we have showed case you today, this is a DIY tool. So once the tool is enabled in your organization, all you have to do is just fetch the transactions. You are just clicking a button, fetch the transactions, and this is going to fetch the transactions from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. Of course, there could be some errors, and we have also showed you how you can run through those errors, get them corrected, and upload your files again to finish your migration. And still, if you're facing problems, you can always reach out to us and we can help you in sorting out those errors or any other issues which you're facing. But above all of these, we do provide migration services via our partner ecosystem. So if you are hesitant to do the migration yourself, yes, we are there to help you out. Our partners will help you with the entire migration process. Just adding that it would be on a chargeable basis.
So there's another question: does narration and memo description will be exported? So I presume you're talking about the description given for an item while you're creating an invoice or a purchase transaction, or during the journals if you have given some description on that. Yeah, we have a separate column called description in which those will be imported. But do let us know if there are any other modules in which you've given the as I said earlier, bank transaction cannot be imported in. So apart from these, if there are descriptions in your sales and purchase transactions, those will be fetched in.
Hi, Preetham. To answer your question, again, this whole QBO migration tool is already enabled inside Zoho Books. If you are someone who has not signed up for Zoho Books, with the link that I had shared in the group, you can sign up for Zoho Books and the tool will automatically be enabled. Or if you are already a Zoho Books user, please drop an email to migrations@zohobooks.com and our team will enable the tool for you and you'll be able to see the tool inside the application. We'll take two more questions and then we can close the session. So this whole walkthrough by Vaishali was recorded. So post this session, you'll be receiving an email with the recording, which will, this is for your reference and you can watch the video and kickstart your migration from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. In case you need any help, I am dropping in our detailed help documentation on how, in case you have any questions as such.
So there is one more question. We are doing manually importing by exporting from QB. So if you have already exported the data yourself and you are importing it, you can go ahead. But if you want to try this tool, you can create a new organization and you can have we can enable build this tool for you, and you can try the migration via the tool also.
Also, just to recap on that, so this tool can fetch up to 25,000 transactions per module. That is 25,000 invoices, 25,000 bills, and so on. So if your transaction count is below this required volume, 25,000 volume, we can have this tool enabled. But apart from that, if you have transaction about 25,000 for each module, we can also have the wizard enabled. So as I said, we can export the data out of QuickBooks in the Zoho Books format, and you can manually import it using the migration wizard that we have. So that is also possible. So based on the volume, do let us know what is the uh, uh, what is your volume preference, that is volume of data that you have in QuickBooks. Accordingly, we can have the tool enabled for your organization. And apart from this is so one more thing that needs to be said here is the QuickBooks tool works only when you have an active QuickBooks subscription. You will have to have an active QuickBooks subscription to connect your Zoho Books into QuickBooks. So once the and apart from this, this QuickBooks tool is available only in the Indian data center. So you have to create your organization in books.zoho.in, and you'll have the QuickBooks tool enabled as well. So you should have an active QuickBooks subscription to set up the tool and connect it to QuickBooks. So we use APIs to talk with QuickBooks. So we need to have an active subscription to set up the connection.
So there is one more comment. Previously, we didn't have the idea about this tool, and our team had exported the data. So yes, we are doing this webinar only after the tool has been released. So this tool was developed recently. So, but ever since QuickBooks have exited the market, we are providing our services in migrating the customers from QuickBooks to Zoho Books. So in the previous days, we were manually exporting the data from QuickBooks, and we were also helping in importing the current fiscal year's transactions along with the opening balance. So that was the process we were following because we didn't want the customers to be waiting. But currently we have this tool which can help you in migrating yourself, and we have a lot of customers in queue who are in need of migration. So we believe this tool will be helpful. And that is a thank you note. Thank you so much for acknowledging.
Guys, we don't have any new questions as such. Thank you so much, Vaishali and Kartika, for taking up all the questions. Thank you once again to all the members who joined this session. Like I said, you will receive the recording over email post this session. If you have any questions, please do drop us an email and we'll be able to help you out. Thank you so much. Take care and stay safe.